You're listening to the AmWritingFantasy Podcast. In today's publishing landscape, you can reach fans all over the world. Query letters are a thing of the past. You don't even need a literary agent. There is nothing standing in the way of making a living from writing. Join two best-selling authors who have self-published more than 20 books between them. Now, on to the show with your hosts, Autumn Burt and Jasper Schmidt.
Hi, this is Autumn, and today Jesper is taking a break, and instead I am here with British author H.B.Lyne, and we will be talking about her books and some great tips about writing and goal setting, and maybe why you might want to recover. So hi, Holly, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yes, it's so great to touch it base with someone across the ocean again. And I love the accent. I do miss it. I mentioned just before we started recording that I'd spent a year in England. I spent a year in Manchester, and I did love it over there. And I kind of do miss the accent, I have to admit. So welcome. And yeah, please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your books. I think I counted, was it 5 or 6 out? I can't remember now.
It depends on your definition. I'm Holly Lyne, and I write dark urban fantasy. I have a series of 4 novels and then another series of 1, but I'm also appearing in some anthologies. So nice. Yeah, and I have a couple of novellas and a collection of short stories. So, yeah. I saw that you are a fan, I believe, of Stephen King, and you have hopes to be very prolific. It sounds like you're on the right track. Yeah, I love Stephen King. I love horror. That's where my roots are, and nice. That would be amazing to be as successful as him.
Well, if you ever happen to be coming overseas, because I used to live in Maine, I used to joke that, I was just down the road from Stephen King, so I can definitely give you a tour and host you and take you over to Maine, and I don't know, we could at least hang out by his gate and hope he'll notice us. Maybe he's very friendly. Sometimes he does sign books, so we could try to stalk him. Oh, great. Thank you so much for joining me. And I know you're also part of a team, just like Jesper and I, Unstoppable Author. So you have a partner, Angeline.
That's right.
So you guys have been writing together, or at least you've been working together, I know, for a few years. So I've known you from Instagram for quite a while, and Angeline from Instagram. Yeah. And I know you used to have the Western Woods world building. Yes.
We used to be.
So yeah.
We used to be the Great Western Woods world building podcast, but that was such a mouthful.
Obviously, I just messed up too.
It's okay. We rebranded at the start of this year, and we are now Unstoppable Authors.
Oh, I love that. And it's a good title, so I really like that. But yeah, you guys have done so much. I know I joined one of your world building month where every day you post something on Instagram, and that was so much fun. So it was fantastic that you guys organized things like that to get authors, posting more and sharing more about our books and things we wouldn't normally think of maybe to post. So yeah. I've definitely been a fan and joining that. So it's so much fun to have you on. And I know you said you're actually writing a book on goals and goal setting, so you've switched to a little bit of nonfiction now as well.
Yeah, this is my first nonfiction book, and it's just been a sort of natural evolution of what I've been doing, like with Angeline on the podcast and with my social media. I've been a part of the writing community now for 6 years, and it just feels like the time to start sharing some of the things that I've learned and helping other people. So goal setting has kind of been my area of expertise, I guess, for a little while. And it just, it seemed to be a natural fit. So I thought, I'm going to share some of my tips in a book. So,
that's fantastic. Yes, I love, that's one thing I do love about the author community. I think we tend to give back so much compared to a lot of other side things. Like my husband's into photography and he's done a few other things. And they're pretty ruthless online, where I think authors tend to be so much more helpful and kind. So it's brilliant to work with other authors.
Yeah, it's one of the best communities.
But definitely some goals. Oh. That's why, hands down, it's definitely one of the best communities. It's rare to find someone who you want to avoid, so that's a good thing. Well, I think goal setting is a great topic. So, of course, here we are. We're recording a little bit early, but this will be released at the end of April. And I'm assuming, even though that's a couple weeks away, that we're still going to be in a pandemic and just undergoing, I don't know what's going to happen between now and then. And I sometimes don't want to imagine. But goal setting is a good topic for right now, because it's so easy to, if you're not used to being home and maybe having the chance to write all the time, or especially if you're home with kids, which I know you have too, so it can be a challenge to suddenly your entire schedule has been upended, our entire world has been upended. And we're trying, there's lots of good memes out there saying, keep it up, stay focused. Now is a chance to, if you ever want to be a full-time writer, now is your chance to give it a try, assuming you're not remote working. But so what are some good tips? I mean, that'd be great to get into some good tips for goals. I mean, and I do know that, I agree. I'm off the cart right now, and I need to get back on it, because I used to be so good at setting goals. I do weekly goals. So I can add in my tips too, but I've kind of fallen off of that, and I need to get back on it, because it makes such a huge difference when you have some sort of goals. That's how you write. I'm up to book, I think I'm on 16 or 17, and I used to have people say, and I'm sure you have too, it's like, how do you find time to write books? And especially when I had a full-time job and a husband, and I would joke around saying I'm a vampire. I don't sleep. I don't need food. But it's not the truth. So what are your best tips? Can you give us any nuggets that you're putting into your book?
Okay, so I planned out this book, kind of the topics I wanted to cover and roughly what was going to happen in each chapter a little while ago, sort of well before this pandemic really took off. And I was planning to write it in this gap between fiction projects that I have. And it just, I delayed. Initially, I delayed starting it because it felt, no, hang on, the world just went crazy. Now's not the time for this.
Right.
And I was feeling really daunted, because one of my early chapters was on living in crisis mode. And it felt, I don't know, insensitive maybe to be writing about that while so many of us are living in crisis mode. So I put off starting it for a good few weeks, but then something clicked inside, and I was like, no, hang on, now is the perfect time to write about this. And like you said, there are all these memes and stuff, and I know that that's negatively affecting some people, because they feel this pressure to be their most creative, productive selves, and they just can't right now. So I just want to say, if that's how you feel, if you feel like you just can't right now, that's fine. I've certainly had days where I'm just like, I just have to get through the day.
This is incredibly, even if you're normally I'm a normal optimist, but this is really hard. And there are times where I am out of breath, worried about, my parents, they both have immune issues. So it's just, you feel it. And even if you're, like I said, I'm normally a very chipper, dedicated, task-oriented person, but there's days that I just need to stop and just stare at the stream for a few minutes, because it's just hard. This is really hard. So if this is okay, if you're having an off time and you're struggling, because that's perfectly normal right now.
Yeah, absolutely. The world has been turned completely upside down, and I wouldn't want anyone to feel any kind of pressure to set goals if they can barely shower and feed themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
So definitely health first, and there's going to be quite a lot in the book about looking after your health and setting goals that are holistic, so that take your whole life into account, and figuring out what's realistic based on your actual circumstances. So rather than looking at what other people are doing and what goals they're setting, make sure that what you're setting for yourself is appropriate to your life and your situation.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's a great idea and a great reality check that, yeah, sometimes I know even myself with my productivity, I had a friend who lived in London, and oh my goodness, the amount of books he could churn out made my head spin, and I didn't know how he did it. And you just can't put that kind of pressure on yourself, because it kind of to me, it almost brings up writer's block, or it freezes you from just that looseness, the creativity, and where the things sink and click. And that's a much looser place than when you start feeling that pressure and the gears are grinding and you're just kind of like going, how do you do it? It all seems to fall apart the more pressure you put on it.
Definitely. Absolutely. I think we are very prone to what I call comparisonitis, where we look forever outwards, and especially on social media. And I know I said our community is wonderful, and it really is, but when there's a little bit of a dangerous zone where you are looking always at what other people are doing and comparing yourself to them, and I don't think that's helpful in 9 out of 10 cases. So
no, and you also never know what's going on under the hood in their lives too. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, always, I think it's good to look up to other people and have aspirations and see, oh, that really works for them. Maybe it's worth trying. But if it doesn't work for you, don't keep trying to, make it happen.
Exactly. Yeah, it's always good to be open to learning another technique or another skill or seeing if something will work for you. But yeah, when it's word count and number of books released and everything else that, some people rise to challenges that other people just feel like everything's falling apart. So it doesn't help to imagine yourself in someone else's shoes in someone else's life. You need to be the best you can be in yours.
Yeah.
Excellent. I do love the fact too that you talk about like whole health, because if you're struggling and just keeping things together, that doesn't help if you also want to write a book, unless journaling and writing helps you to get some of the craziness out of your head.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do a lot of other creative things, and that really helps me. I think having other creative outlets can really free up your writing as well, and give you, a creative well to draw from. So
nice. Yeah. Great. So I know when I was doing goal setting, some people would go for word counts or everything else, but I would and some people had daily goals, monthly goals. I went for a weekly goal progress, and I would adjust it based on my work calendar. Like if I had a really busy week that I knew I had a spot check coming up or something, and it was just going to be a totally stressful week at work, I would reduce and for me it was a chapter goal, so sometimes it was like one chapter a week. And then there was times where I knew it was going to be an easy breezy work, or there was going to be some half days or something strange like that I could I would have a chapter goal of 2.5 chapters a week. So that really, I did really well under that system. So what is your favorite way of setting some writing goals to accomplish things?
Yeah, so because I'm such a nerd about this, and I go really extra. I set annual goals, quarterly goals, monthly goals, and weekly goals.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Yeah, so I have a long-term plan, so I know where I'm going. And I say I set yearly goals. I actually even have a 5-year plan, but that's fantastic. Thank you. It's a loose plan. It's a kind of right now, this is where I think I want to be in 5 years, but I will regularly reassess it and see if that's still what I want. Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I even do that with my yearly and quarterly goals, because things can change. Like this pandemic, who would have known?
Exactly. I was just going to say that.
My entire year.
How dare it? No, totally.
Yeah, so I think the key is to check in regularly and see if your goals are still relevant and if they need to be adapted.
Fantastic. Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, but I mean, goals should definitely not be written in stone, because if you're not, if, like we said, the pandemic can happen, but just what you want out of life could change so much from one year to the next. So things happen. You could have a kid, things change.
Yeah, absolutely. And you might have an idea for a new series, and you publish the first one, and it doesn't do so well, and maybe the popularity of the genre has waned a little bit, and so you need to change direction. So you always need to be flexible in what you're doing and what you're putting out there, and keeping an eye on other factors outside of your control and responding to them. So having a versatile goal setting system that allows you the chance to do that, I think, is quite important.
And how do you check in with your goals? So I always saw that's like, it's easy. I mean, I saw that at work. I would have to do a business plan, and there would be times you wouldn't even look at it until you're like, oh, I'm going to have my annual or mid-year review, and I better look at my business plan. So you're looking at it maybe once or twice a year. But the idea with goals, I mean, especially these personal ones, they're supposed to be keeping you on track and hopefully inspiring you to meet them, which means putting in some work. So what's your best tip for, reminding yourself, where do you put them so that you actually look at them and you say, yeah, I'm going to do that?
So I use a bullet journal planning system. Excuse me.
Okay.
So I have a day-to-day bullet journal, it includes all of my personal and work stuff. And then I have a business planner, which is where I do my big goal setting for the year and the quarter and all of that. And in my day-to-day bullet journal, I literally keep task lists, and I will regularly write down my goals. I do like a monthly spread, which has like a calendar with all of my appointments and everything on. It's looking a bit empty this month. And alongside that, I always have some goals for the month. And I'll write them down in multiple places where I'm going to see them virtually every day. And that helps just to keep them in the forefront of my mind on a regular basis.
Oh, that's excellent. That's a good way. Yeah, definitely keeping them visible is, I think, important. I know some people put them like right into their calendar and other places. I used to have something called ABC Notes that was on my iPad that would actually show like unfinished tasks in like the little corner, so I would know to go in and check it and see like what I hadn't done. Of course, if you're good at ignoring things, I don't know what it would work otherwise, but it's definitely helpful to have something. I've gone almost all electronic, and I don't know, maybe I wish Scrivener actually had like an alarm system, or saying like, hey, you haven't touched me today. I wonder if there's an app out there for that, or I should talk to the company that made it and see like, can you put on like reminders so it's like, you haven't touched me in 8 hours.
Yeah.
That would be horrible, but I think I'd love it.
As long as you're able to tell it how often to remind you, because...
Yes, definitely be able to set your reminder time, but that'd be kind of fun. So what are some things that you would put on like your weekly, your monthly, your annual tasks? Like, do you tend to do a word count, or do you go by chapters, or do you not even put down a writing goal?
It varies. It depends what I'm working on. So at the moment, I'm doing Camp NaNoWriMo, so I have a word count goal this month, but most months I wouldn't do a word count goal. It would be, I use SMART goals, which, do you know what they are?
No, I don't think I've heard that one before.
Okay, so it's a planning system where you have to get really granular with the goal. And the principle is, and the research shows, that people who set SMART goals are more likely to achieve their goals. So every goal should be specific. So like a word count, that's a really solid SMART goal. Measurable, again, word count, you can track that every day and see what progress you're making.
Excellent.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember what the acronym is. A is for like appropriate to your situation, so that they actually fit with your big goals and what you're striving for. R is for relevant, so they have to be appropriate to your situation right now. And T is time bound, so put a deadline on them. So so I if I don't set a word count goal, it will be something like finish this book by the end of the month.
Okay.
Or, you know, I'm gearing up to a big relaunch project. So over the coming months, I've got goals like get the cover designed for book 2, get the formatting done for book 3, and so on and so forth. So they're specific, and they're very, you know, concrete things that I know what to do. And for bigger things that are more of a project, I will break it down and figure out every task that I need to do in order to accomplish everything to do with that project and get it out the door in time. So again, that's where I use my planner. I'll have like a page that I have, you know, for that project, and I have everything written down that I need to do for that project, and I can cross them off as I do them.
Excellent. That sounds really useful. I like that SMART goals. So that's the acronym. That's very helpful. And yeah, I can definitely see the difference. I mean, if you do something very loose, or especially if you set something way too big that you're gonna not be able to check off, or, you know, you end up with a busy week, or, you know, you end up in quarantine or something, you're just not gonna get it done. I know the one time I forgot my computer charger in Canada, and so it took them 2 weeks to ship it to me. I didn't get much writing done during that 2 weeks because I was paranoid I'd run out of my laptop juice, and I didn't have another charger. And yeah, I don't know why I didn't just order another one off of Amazon, but, you know, you just don't go back and question yourself. But I'd love to talk a little bit more that you're doing this relaunch too, not to shift gears unless you have any more tips to put on goal setting, but I'd love to talk a little bit about your relaunch and what led you to that.
Okay, so I started independently publishing in 2013, and the market changes, the landscape changes, cover conventions change. And my beautiful, beautiful covers that I had done in like 2013, 2014, they're no longer current. You know,
I published in 2012, and I think I've gone through 2 or 3 covers on. It's changed so much, and they've improved. The quality level has come up so much.
Definitely.
So I hear you on covers. And if you're an early publisher.
But also, I didn't know what I was doing back then, and I gave my books these really sort of flowery titles that were like clues, you know, to the big story arc, and, you know, I thought were very clever, but actually they don't really give the reader the right cues as to what the book is going to be. Interesting. So I had some feedback that my titles and my covers made my books look like they were romance, and they're really not.
Interesting.
So I decided that I needed new titles, new covers, the works, and it's something that I'd been sitting on for maybe 18 months, and was like, one day I'll do this. And then I decided to make it a goal and prioritize it, and so now it's actually happening.
That's excellent.
And it's scary, and it's intimidating, and it's exciting, and all of the things. But I've just had the first cover for the first book back from my cover designer, and it's so pretty. So I'm so excited. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. I partially, my other hat is a graphic designer, and I love covers, and I love arts, and I love the psychology of covers, all the little clues that even fonts are giving you, these subconscious clues. The colors give you subconscious clues to, you know, what kind of genre, what kind of book this is going to be. And so, I agree. I can't wait to see your covers. I'll be watching on Instagram for you to release them then.
Thank you.
It's so exciting. Have you done even probably new blurbs? I mean, you're doing it all front to back. Everything's renewed. Wow.
Everything. I'm also having them formatted by Julia Scott at Even Star Books, and she's just done the most beautiful job on the first one. It's absolutely stunning. And it's the first time I've worked with a formatter before, and
excellent.
I've always just done my own, and you know, that's fine. And absolutely, you know, new writers shouldn't be afraid to bootstrap that. And it's a good skill to learn, you know, to know how to format your books. But I can't make them look really pretty, or I don't have the time to invest in learning the skills to make them look really good. so yeah, I'm outsourcing that one, and that's been a good experience as well. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, that's always a good thing to hear too. And I mean, to me, it's a level of professionalism too, is when you are looking even at the formatting, whether you're learning it to do it yourself, whether well, or buying the software to do it yourself, or hiring it out to someone else. It's just, it shows that you're taking your own, level of quality and professionalism, and that this is something you're going to be serious about this, and you're no longer an amateur. So, that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. I do remember when, the old days. I think I uploaded my first book in 2012 using Word, and I think actually I wanted to join a promo, and the organizer's like, look, your book looks good. You have lots of, reviews, but I opened it up and it's like the font changed because it just, Amazon's compression, everything had just kind of broken the Word file, the original .doc I had uploaded. And I was like, I was so embarrassed. So I pulled it down. I'm like, I'm formatting. And I happen to have, my family's also very heavy into computer science. So I looked at it. I found a software program, and I use Vellum, and I ran with that and love it to death. And I think I got that right when it first came out. It was super cheap. So I feel very fortunate. But yeah, it was definitely kind of like I now say, you need to go back and look at your previous books every year, because we have a tendency to publish and move on. But you need to update your links. You need to make sure everything's working. You need to make sure that the internet has not broken whatever format you created, because it might, and it can, and readers will not pick up a book if suddenly you have 3 spaces between every paragraph and things are offset and the font changes. Oh my gosh, no, you got to fix that. It makes a huge difference.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, so that's fantastic. Oh, so when is your hope to relaunch the final? Are you going to roll them out one by one, or are you going to do the whole big thing at once?
I'm going to rapid release them.
Excellent.
It's a complete 4-book series, but I'm planning to write a sequel, and sort of start a new chapter, if you like, in the same world, but set later on. Okay. And the plan and the goal is to launch that new book in December this year, and rapid release the 4 preceding ones in September, October, November, and then December, and then into the new one. So yeah, I'm just kind of getting everything lined up now so that I'm ready.
Yeah, well, you sounds like I know you're just on book 1, so you have 3 more to do and get everything done, but we are only in April, so we quarantine and pandemics aside, I think you've given yourself lots of space and time to hopefully have everything ready for not necessarily easy, because there's always last minute crap that comes up, but at least not be wholly panicked and not having things done on time. So that's excellent.
Yeah, exactly. I think giving yourself room, and this goes back to the goal setting thing, you need to, when you're planning out your year and your launch schedule, make sure that you give yourself plenty of time, because there's nothing worse, I don't think, than realising you've tried to fit too much in. That can just really cripple you if you feel too stressed to actually accomplish anything. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely always been in my art and in my writing that high stress does not bring out my productivity. I'd rather do a quick meditation and calm myself down. I'm a comfort. I forget, I have looked at the enneagrams, and I forget which one I am, but whichever one is the one that likes comfort for creativity and stuff, that's me. Yeah. So I need my cup of hot tea. I might need a cookie, and I need the fireplace, and then I'm usually ready to write. It's not usually that bad. I have traveled quite a lot, and I've been writing. I finished a novel literally in the passenger seat of a Land Cruiser while driving a highway in Montana, because I was just so desperate to get it done. But that's the, showing up to work, not the preferred method of work. But definitely, especially, I've been struggling. I'm starting 2 new series myself, and I've kind of did the test, like I did 2 novellas to see which one readers would like, and I was going to write whatever series they preferred, and it almost ended up being like a 45-55 split.
Yeah.
So that almost didn't help. So I'm going with the one I like. But I'm still, it's new, it's a newish storyline, newish world, and I think I need a couple of rainy comfort days to maybe get into it a little bit more, and maybe it'll start flowing better. Or, maybe I should just kick myself in the butt, do some goal setting, and just get going already and stop being a wuss about this. I know how to write already.
Yeah, definitely.
But it goes to show everyone needs, at any point in their career, they can easily fall off the goal horse and struggle, and we know better, but we still do it.
I've just written this series of short stories for these anthologies that I'm in, which are the stories are very kind of noir, still supernatural, urban fantasy, but very, very dark. And they were written in the winter, and I really want to give my main character his own novel series because I just completely fell in love with him. But I'm like, I can't write that when it's bright blue sky and gorgeous sunshine outside. I need the rain, I need the autumn and the dark evenings, because that's the atmosphere of those books. So, yeah, so he's going to have to wait.
I do get that. Well, he'll be waiting for you in the fall. And hopefully in other ways, the world will be a happier, better place. But yeah, I do get that. I definitely had a series that every time the fall, the first book started in the fall. So every time it came around, it'd be like, yeah, I could keep going in that. So, and I will say the pandemic was inspiring some dark dystopian ideas, but I've actually kind of reversed course. I tend to be contrary, and I now just have this huge desire to go back to my original epic fantasy, which is noble right, and all like the heroes will eventually conquer, they'll go through crap, but they will succeed. I could just totally go for that right now. However, yeah, my book is sort of a dark urban fantasy as well, that my current series, and I need to just embrace what's going on maybe and run with it. So we'll see.
Well, my next fiction project is going to be dystopian, and I'm drawing quite a lot of inspiration from the real world right now.
I bet. And so is that the one, I think you said, Angeline and you were creating a world. Are you co-writing in the world, or just both using the world but writing your own series?
Yes. We created the world actually on Instagram last year. During our challenge, we were each day we were creating another aspect of the world, and then we're each going to write our own novellas set in that world.
Okay.
So it's a sort of future Britain where the sea levels have risen catastrophically, and so there's...
Oh, yeah, I remember those posts. Yeah. Yes.
So there's not a lot
of
land left, not a lot of resources, and people live under these domes to protect them from a radioactive atmosphere, and so there's going to be a lot of, stay inside. I'm like propaganda inside the
This
domes.
Is perfect!
Yeah.
You have a good feel for the characters who have to stay inside.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, shoot. Well, if we can't laugh about this, we'll just go insane. So.
Exactly. You've got to find humour in it, haven't you?
Oh, you do. I think, well, especially British, I think you're very good at the dark humor, the gallows humor. There's some people, I think in the US, we're not quite as good at it. We're more sarcastic. And so I do appreciate that about the dry British sense of humor. I think you guys can handle this very well.
Thank you.
I've always said I was on the wrong continent, but oh well. Where you go. I'll come back and visit. When I can. When, at this point we have to get a sailboat so I can come back. Oh, well, that's excellent. I love that because I've heard, like, Esper and I have been world building and we're going to write a series together. And so that's, that's more the traditional, but I love the fact that you've kind of created a world together, but you're each going to write your own novellas.
Yeah.
That also sounds like fun, and who knows, maybe I'll have to see how things go. I might end up branching off 1 or 2 short stories on my own then in the world that Jesper and I built.
Yeah.
That sounds kind kind of fun. Well, that'll be exciting. So will you release them like with links to each other, or like the same, like some kind of little logo that says part of this world, or?
Yeah, I mean, we need to work out the details, but what we've talked about in the past is releasing them both separately, but then also as like a box set together. So it'll be very clear that they are a shared universe, and we're even gonna sort of look at maybe crossover characters and just I don't know, we'll see, but yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Exciting times.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's like I said, very different. So I know like probably a lot of the authors listening are familiar with like there's a lot of collaboration and teaming up as writers going on, which I think is fantastic. But this is kind of a different twist on it. And I think it's fascinating. So it kind of gives you a little bit of independence, but also a writing partner, collaborator at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's really kind of fun. So other people who maybe are challenged or like the idea of collaborating with someone, but want to just kind of gently test the waters, this might be a great way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. We both sort of felt that we're a bit too controlling to completely go all in and write the same story together. This gives us that kind of halfway house where we each have control over our own stories. So yeah, it's a good first step towards co-writing something.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I cannot wait to see how this goes and hear updates and watch and see the releases eventually on Instagram. It'll be so much fun. Well, great. Do you have any final tips or announcements? I know with the Unstoppable Authors, you guys have put stuff together, but so many things are on hold right now in the world. But I know you guys have some big plans, so I can't wait to see how that grows as well.
Yeah, thank you. We've been planning this indie author event, Indie Fire, which was supposed to happen in May, but we've had to postpone it. So that's really on hold. But all of our guest authors have been fantastically supportive, and they're all keen to, still attend when it goes ahead in November. So, yeah, it's kind of, we've had to just kind of stop planning because there's nothing else we can do on it right now. But, yeah, it'll be good to get back to planning and promoting that in a few months, definitely.
Yeah. I've seen so many of the events, the writing events Angeline has attended and, gone to as an author and signed up for and done signings and things, and I've always admired it and was always joking like, I want to come across the ocean and do one with you guys. So who knows, maybe one of these days we can all make that happen because it would be so awesome. I will definitely be paying attention, and any excuse to come back once the world is slightly in our new normal, whatever that new normal ends up being. It'll be fantastic, and hopefully I'll meet some of the other, like I said, I seem to know a lot of Brits and British authors, so that'd be fantastic to meet up with everyone. We're gonna have a huge party maybe.
Yeah.
Well, great. Thank you so much for coming on and for the tips on goal setting and, why you might want to be looking at your covers and, just testing out your books and looking and making sure everything's still up to snuff after a few years. Right now, everyone's pretty much at home, so it's a good time to recheck your old files.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's been really, really good fun.
Great. Yes, excellent. Well, we'll have to have an update, maybe have the other half on at one point and see how things are going. Oh, great. And so coming up next, we'll be back to Jesper and I will have some writing tips in our next podcast. So please come back and stay tuned.
If you like what you just heard, there's a few things you can do to support the AmWritingFantasy Podcast. Please tell a fellow author about the show and visit us at Apple Podcast and leave a rating and review. You can also join Autumn and Jesper on patreon.com/AmWritingFantasy. For as little as $1 a month, you'll get awesome rewards and keep the AmWritingFantasy Podcast going. Stay safe out there and see you next Monday.